Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fired Up, the podcast for marketers working in early and late stage startups. Hello there, everyone. Welcome to Fired Up, the startup marketing podcast. My name is Morgan McLintic, and today I'm joined by Nicole Pytel. Hey, Nicole.
Hey, Morgan. Hey, everybody.
So today we are going to talk a bit about whether corporate blogging is dead. Now, okay, let's just say that framing of this tactic, SEO is dead, PR is dead, I don't love it. But I do think that the topic of what is the role of the corporate blog today and how has that changed is a really important one, right? It's an area that a lot of brands put a lot of their content marketing focus on, and we want to make sure we're getting rewards out of that. And you'll see this question is out there. And so what we thought we'd do is just spend a bit of time unpacking that argument and then sharing what we see with the startups that we're working with, and then talk a little bit about, all right, how has the role of the blog changed and how does that fit into buyer behavior today?
Yeah, perfect.
So first of all, I want to say, I think that the blog is really important. Been blogging, I think I did my personal blog in 2004. So I've been blogging for a long time. I think it's still really an important part of your content marketing program, but perhaps not in the way that it was. And so let's just steelman the why is corporate blogging dead, or why is this question even coming up? It was a key part of SEO. You saw a key part of inbound. Let's put out a couple of blog posts every week. Let's make sure that they're SEO optimized. The concept was then people will find that online. It'll bring them to your website. HubSpot had metrics around the companies that post regularly get far more organic traffic than those that have periodic posting on their blog. But the Content Marketing Institute says 2023, the average blog post ROI declined by 40%. HubSpot itself, its 2024 data says that blog posts under 1,000 words, so the sort of short, the ones you can sort of rip out, the performance is flat and declining. Google's helpful content update did downgrade posts with sort of more generic, low-value content. And so we are seeing some data that says, hey, look, this used to work, and it's not working in the same way that it was. Orbit Media said that, 2023, that 32% of bloggers, only 32% of bloggers are reporting strong results from their blog, which is the lowest it's been in the last 10 years. So I do think that there's a case to be argued here, Nicole.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the old way of blogging is definitely dead. Things have changed. I think we all remember hey, pick a cadence you can stick with and stick with it because Google wants to see that you're updating your site with helpful, relevant content and all the keywords and all the things that you mentioned. So is that way of blogging dead? Yes. Now we'll talk about why the blog is still very, very important. And I think some of these stats about, ROI is down, I think that can somewhat be attributed more to the dark funnel. I think buyers are doing more self-guided research. Attribution's getting much, much harder than it was a few years ago. As much as we would like for somebody to read a blog post, click on the CTA to go download a gated asset, and then go through a nurture and book a demo and just have this clean, straight line. It's just not like that anymore. So I think blogging is getting harder to measure. And I also think the content is people just envision, I just got to crank something out. I got to get something new for the website. And that's just totally the wrong focus to have. That may have worked 10, 15 years ago, but it doesn't work anymore. Google's onto it. Your readers are onto it. And no, nobody is sitting around waiting for your company to hit publish on its next blog post so they can come running to read it. So yeah, the old way of blogging is definitely dead, and these statistics bear that out.
Right. I mean, few people use an RSS reader these days, so they're not following your corporate blog, as you say. And if you look at organic traffic going down 15 20% to websites as a whole. The blog, which used to be the primary engine room of a lot of that traffic, is going to be particularly hit. And we also then see, there's a stat from Databox here that the average time spent on a blog page is 50 seconds. Which, okay, what's the average there? Normally a bit higher than that. So this is quite low, and bounce rates are 90% according to Databox. I could argue that actually, look, people come with a query, they get their query answered, and they move on. But, what you want is your blog to then lead to other pages on your website. So you don't want your blog to be having a very high bounce rate. Let's talk about AI. I think AI has changed the role of the corporate blog in two ways. One is the buyer behavior that we've just been talking about, right? That sort of the buyer behavior is becoming much more complex. It's becoming AI informed. People are coming to your website lower in the funnel than they were because their top of funnel queries are being answered by Perplexity or Claude or ChatGPT, maybe fueled by content from your blog, which we can talk about. But, they're just not coming and reading your blog and then, as you say, sort of clicking on a few other pages and then signing up for a demo. That's really not happening. And the second thing is, AI has made the ability for people to post generic blog content just much easier. I have literally had people say, I'll just have ChatGPT write this blog post. I've had people say, I'll have ChatGPT just write my whole website, which I am anxious about. But there's certainly been a massive increase in volume of blog content, which has lowered the quality. In fact, in 2024, SEMrush, depending on how you like to pronounce it, has said that there's a 20% spike in indexed content volume with no corresponding traffic growth. So SEMrush, which, tracks SEO data and is a great SEO tool, if it's tracking more content and it's not actually driving traffic, then nobody is reading that. And we know that content marketers are using AI, but as long as you use it responsibly, it's great. But you're just seeing a massive increase in generic blog content. I think that's been an epicenter of where AI content is appearing.
Yeah, I think AI is kind of the old content mills on steroids because, 10, 15 years ago, you could get a blog post written for you for $2. Who knows who was writing it or what they actually know about, but there it was, like 500 words just for you to go publish once a week or twice a week or whatever. AI makes that so much easier. And so there's no surprise that blog content has just exploded because everybody thinks they can just tell ChatGPT to go write a blog post and then it's fine. And I think people are missing the point of it's not what you're publishing, it's publishing the right thing. Like you have to get beyond this whole, we just got to fill up the website with stuff. Like that doesn't work. And I think that's where people are missing the boat when it comes to AI. If you think, yeah, I just need 10 blog posts on there to make it look like we publish a regular cadence of stuff, and you go to AI and you don't really give much thought to what the topics are or what the pain points are, what the buyer journey looks like, it's not going to resonate. So yes, AI can do a tremendous job of enhancing your blog posts. It can help you brainstorm things. It can help you come up with titles. It can help you come up with outlines after you interview a SME. It can do some wonderful things. But if you just say, hey, ChatGPT, we're an AI company, an AI platform, and we need you to write a blog post for us. Just pick a topic, go nuts. I just need it to be 800 words. It's not going to work. It's just not.
Right. And almost every tool, HubSpot has one, they call it Breeze. MuckRack has an AI tool that you can write press releases. Like they have embedded these tools in there, and the MuckRack one's willing to write you a press release based on a one-line prompt. So there's a lot of slop out there, as we know. I think another part of the argument about why corporate blogging is dead, the audience has just moved, right? We know that people have moved much more to sort of social channels. They listen to podcasts. They're watching videos with visual animals. They're in Slack communities, etc. And so coming to your corporate blog is maybe not that, they're not going to come. So you might see, for example, you share a link to your latest blog post on LinkedIn. Are people going to click that? Maybe, but most people are going to move on. And I'd say that you see that in email, right? People will open your email if you have a great headline, but the click rates in general are going down because attention spans are going down. People don't have the time. And so you need to move your content into the place where people's attention is. And so that could be LinkedIn, that could be into podcasts, that could be onto YouTube, it could be directly into the newsletter itself, because people are just, they're not going to click, or however well intentioned they want to, but then they get distracted before they read the article, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. We see this stat from Demand Gen Report. It says 65% of B2B buyers say that blogs are less helpful than webinars, case studies, and analyst content. And I think that makes a lot of sense over what we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years, where B2B buyers have gotten a lot more focused on, is this product going to generate an ROI? That's what I need. I need proof that this platform, vendor, whatever works. And that's where the case studies come in. The webinars, you get
Mm-hmm.
to see and hear people. And if there's a customer on there, all the better. The analyst content is deemed unbiased. So I don't think there's any surprise that we're seeing those types of content go up, as opposed to a blog where, yes, it's your point of view. And, a lot of blogs get very product heavy too. Like, there's very few blog posts out there that are genuinely helpful with something unique, an interesting point of view, a different take on something, or exclusive data. It seems like whether they're using AI or not, a lot of B2B brands, like, their blog posts just all kind of blend together. You can't tell one brand from the other. And so when you combine that with the fact of, well, I don't want to listen to you pontificate about your product, I want to see if it actually does something for people, that makes total sense. I mean, absolutely.
Right. And, I think attribution is hard for blog posts. It would be great if people could find you. They search online and they find your blog, your ultimate guide, or whatever it might be, your top 10 tips, and then they read it and then they travel through your website and they sign up. But purchasing is never that linear. And attribution, actually making sure you're tracking that person all the way through, is hard, right? The look back window on HubSpot, I think, is like 60 days. Even with a tool like Ruler, the attribution window is much longer, but they are hard to set up. They cost money. And then you get into arguments about attribution models, etc., last click, first click, multi-click, etc., and time regression. So I just feel like most people don't want that, especially for early stage startups. They don't want to invest in that. They have other priorities. And so therefore you sort of have the blog, you're posting stuff. How can I really show that it actually contributes to ROI? And it could be tempting then to go, okay, I couldn't see a direct link, so maybe I shouldn't do this.
Yeah, makes total sense. I mean, attribution is so hard right now. It's getting harder and harder. And the more zero click behavior we see, you can't attribute that to anything. You don't know what somebody has typed into ChatGPT or Perplexity or Claude and what answer they've gotten. The only thing that we know right now is, did they click on the ChatGPT source link and come visit your site out of it?
Mm-hmm.
And it takes a lot for somebody to do that. If they're just looking for a quick answer or a quick statistic, something like that, they may just get their answer from ChatGPT and move along. They saw that your brand was the one that gave it to them, but you have no idea that happened.
Right.
It's all happening in a vacuum. So it's clear to see why people are doubting blogging, because they can't tie it to revenue. And especially when you're dealing with earlier stage startups where every penny has to show an impact. We cannot invest anything without getting something out of it. Unfortunately, it falls kind of into that gumball philosophy. Like, I put in a quarter and out comes a gumball. It's not always like that. But, I get it. You're an early stage startup. You've got to show your CEO, your board, you've got to show traction. And that can be really hard to do with just a bunch of blog posts. Okay, they're getting some traffic on the site. Maybe people are sticking around and reading them, but is it translating to revenue? You don't know the answer to that.
Right. It is hard, especially if you're comparing it to some kind of interactive content, a calculator, some kind of guide, a tool that does a specific job where people are going to sign in and get exposure to the product and you're going to see them directly. You should certainly have those different types of content asset, right? But, it will be easy to deprioritize the blog as a result of that. All right. So those are some of the sort of arguments you tend to see around, okay, maybe we don't need to invest in the blog as much as we have. But I do think that the blog is still the engine room of content. And I do still think it's pretty vital within your sort of content marketing and overall marketing. But so let's just perhaps move on to sort of talk about what modern corporate blogs look like. So we've got a few points here, Nicole. Why don't you kick us off here?
Yeah, so I think the very first thing is to treat this like a strategic content hub. If this is just where SEO keyword stuff goes to die, you are not blogging the right way. Everything that you post should have some kind of strategic relevance. It should address a specific persona. It should address a key theme that you as a business have decided is important. It should address a specific pain point, or it should be timely. It should be talking about your latest product launch or your newest funding announcement. There should be something strategic that's fueling that blog post. It shouldn't just be, it's Tuesday, we got to throw something up on the blog. What can we scrape together? That's not going to work. It really needs to be a strategy. And honestly, stop calling it a blog. Call it something else. Some people say, oh, blog, that's old school. I don't read blogs anymore. This isn't 2005. Call it a resource center. Call it a content hub. Call it a content library. Call it Bob. I don't care. Call it something that just makes it look more sophisticated and elevated than it is. And treat it more sophisticated and elevated than you have been. Think about this living library idea where you're consistently adding new things, new unique points of view, new things that only your brand can provide, even if it's just a take on something going on in the market, a timely development. Nobody's saying you have to go out and spend a ton of money on, expensive custom research and things like that. If you can do that, great. Then write some blog posts about it. But even if it's just an interesting take on something that's happening in the market right now, like that can be very valuable. And one thing to remember is your best blog posts could perform for a very, very long time.
Yes.
Do some updating. If you've got a great post with data from, a few years ago, and it's something that can be updated with new data, do that. We've got a Google Ads benchmark blog post on our website that does great. People want to see it, and it's performing well in AI search as well. And in 6 months or a year, we'll update it with new data so that it continues to perform well. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. Keep an eye on what's performing or what could just use a little refresh and do that.
Yeah, I think that raises a good point. And I've changed my opinion on this a little bit. So before, I used to be very much, you have to have a lot of gated content, right? Because you have to convert people that come to the site. But now fewer people are coming. You should ungate a lot more of your content than you did. The bar on cut through content that's really going to drive traffic has gone up. It has to be valuable. The price that used to be your email, now it has to almost be something that people would pay for, actively pay in dollars for. That kind of content does drive traffic. And so in this instance of, say, this benchmarks, because data is always good, we had to put a lot of effort into building the data model to be able to salami slice cost per click for fintech companies who are around or what have you into the depths of the actually useful metrics. That took some time, weeks. And so we had to put some investment into that. What is your equivalent of that? And then it would have been tempting to sort of gate that, but actually we just put it into a blog post, and that blog post then gets a lot of traffic, and that's where we're getting our ROI from. But I do think the bar is pretty high, and so it's not just sort of a bunch of keyword-driven filler posts. It is a strong content asset. So technical questions that only you can answer, they can be quite niche, really drive a lot. I mean, or a strong perspective. Everyone's focused on executive thought leadership for their CEOs as part of a PR motion, But I do think that the blog is a great way to sort of start building and pressure testing that perspective and fleshing it out and exploring other parts of it. If you are a writer, you will know that the process of writing helps you shape your thinking about a topic. You'll write it and then you'll reorient it, and then you'll sort of need convincing about particular points, and you'll find some data and you'll sort of strengthen your POV. The blog is a great place to sort of do that. And a blog post is a good vehicle to sort of drive that thinking as you ladder up to your bigger theme, or as you break down your bigger perspective and you're pursuing, what does this perspective mean for this persona or for this vertical industry or what have you. I do think that helping your senior execs build out that thought leadership and posting it on your blog is a safe and good place to do it. And it means that you need to take those posts seriously, right? It can't just be cranked out of thin air by PR people or content marketing people. Like, it needs to be written by the CTO or interviewing the CTO or PMMs so that we can actually get deep insights. That's what people want. They don't want something that's bench research that anyone could have compiled necessarily. They actually want specific hands-on experience and advice. And so I think where the argument around blogging isn't working is because you're not rising to that bar. You're not paying the price. You're not putting the effort in to get to that. That's a hard thing to do, right, Nicole? Get that time and that investment.
It is hard, but it does pay off, because one thing that we've seen with some of our clients lately is the main blog page has a relatively lengthy average session duration. And that to me says that people maybe aren't clicking through and reading every post, but they're scrolling through to see, well, what kinds of things do you talk about? What opinions do you have? Something like that, does it translate into something you can measure? Not really. You're just measuring the time on your main blog page. But it says something important. We've seen a couple of clients where people are spending a couple of minutes on the main blog page, really going through and seeing, well, what do these people have to say? What are they all about? So that's one thing to keep an eye on. Take a look at that. And if people are on your main blog page and they're there for 3 seconds and they're gone, you're not hitting the right points. You're not grabbing their attention with something, because we are seeing buyers stick around and scroll and at least do that.
Yeah. And in a world of GEO, where we want to make sure that our content is appearing in Perplexity or ChatGPT, remember, one of the techniques here is to have authors with robust profiles, because these AI crawlers are looking for people who are authoritative. And how does it know that these people are authoritative? It finds the profile of them on your corporate site, and it sees all the blog posts and the LinkedIn profile that you've linked to, and all the videos that this person has produced and the articles that they've been in. And it says, oh, this person is an authority. And so the blog is a great way to build that authority and connect your topics to the author, rather than this coming from your company's team. It needs to come from an individual. And if it has a strong point of view, then let's certainly ascribe it to that author. So this is a great way. It's a big GEO play. If you just overlook that, you're missing an opportunity there to rank higher for GEO.
Yeah, no, you bring up GEO, and ChatGPT's got to pull information from somewhere. Its answers have to come from somewhere, and your blog could definitely be that place. Let's put it this way. If you were to give up your blog tomorrow, you can guarantee that you're not going to be in those answers. Your competitors will be. So even if it doesn't translate into eyeballs on your website, from a GEO perspective, you're kind of feeding the beast. Keep the insights coming, keep the answers coming. And with B2B buyers doing so much top of funnel research on ChatGPT and the like, you need to create content that will answer those questions, even if they don't visit your website directly to get it.
Yeah. And you can see, in your GA4 traffic that your blog posts are driving traffic directly to your site. You can definitely see that. So let's just talk a bit about how you should promote the blog posts, right? We're going to put a lot more effort into creating them. What is best practice about promoting them today, Nicole?
Yeah, well, two things right off the bat is your organic social and your monthly newsletter. The blog can be great fodder
Mm-hmm.
for both of those. Two things that are going to keep you top of mind. And even for if you're early stage and you don't have a big enough content bench to support a full on newsletter every month, you can take one blog post. We've seen this work really well with early stage clients where you published a blog post that month. Send it out, blast it out to your database, and use it as just a single CTA send. We've seen that work really, really well. And we've seen it work really, really well with contacts who are really far down the funnel. We're talking SQLs and active opportunities that are opening these emails. So it's just another touch point. It's also a good touch point for your sales team. So instead of having sales constantly reaching out saying, hey, do you want a demo now? What about now? Do you want a demo now? Every blog post you write is something that they can send out to people that they're actively speaking to and saying, hey, did you see this new thing we put out or this new insight we've got or this new take that we've got? It arms your sales team with quite a bit, and that's a great way to get content out. And honestly, when you think about writing a blog post, even if you don't use it to fuel all of the things I'm about to mention, it should be comprehensive enough to do so. So your blog post should have information in it that can create, some social tiles. It's key stats or a key finding or a key quote from somebody in the company. There should be several social tiles. It should be able to feed several social posts, just insightful type stuff. It should be able to be some fodder for some videos or maybe even a podcast episode. It should provide enough insights that you could do an email on, or maybe if it's a big enough topic, an entire email nurture. So is every blog post going to feed all of those things? No. But if you write it with the thought that, well, how could I break this up if I wanted to? Is it deep enough? One, that gives you chances for distribution. And two, it's going to create a better finished product because you're writing with just a deeper sense in mind. You're just giving out more and more information.
Right. So just a mini case study. We've talked a bit about GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. Now, this is a service that Firebrand offers. So we want to make sure that we're associated with GEO. So how did we do that? First of all, we wrote a nice big content pillar page all about that, like what is GEO and the basic questions. That's great for SEO. It's great for GEO, period. We published several blog posts on this topic. How do you measure it? What do you call it? What are some of the best practices? We did a podcast about those blog posts to talk with the author and to talk more generally about GEO. But then we have created a services page. Here's a services page all about our GEO services and a little banner pointing to that. And we did an email blast wrapping all of that stuff up to our database. So you've got a nice little content cluster there. I mean, we're going to do more on this, right? But there's a nice little content cluster, SEO, some blog posts, video podcast, an email blast, a CTA, in the banner, and then a nice services page. What happened? Well, yesterday through ChatGPT, we got some leads, right? Asking specifically about our GEO services. So this content has been published in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So not long to rank. And it's already, I know that this lead came through ChatGPT because you can see it as the source. And so we're actually being asked about GEO services in AI search, ChatGPT, about it. So I just think that that's a good little example of how you combine different types of content around. But the blog, it was an essential part of that, right? An important aspect to sort of fuel the email, to spur the podcast, etc. So you've got a nice little content cluster around that one topic, and then it's leading to conversions on the site.
Yeah, I mean, the blog was instrumental in that because the blog gave us an opportunity to dig into a few different topics without having this huge piece of content. We've got, I believe, a content anchor for GEO on our website, but the blog we took a few hooks. Said, how do you measure it? What are the best practices? How do you know if you're showing up? More specific things that one, somebody is asking ChatGPT. We know they're asking ChatGPT that. And two, it's just a better experience. Oh, well, I mean, I don't really need to know the best practices. I've learned that elsewhere, but I'd like to learn how to measure it. Oh, this blog post is going to tell me how to do it. So it gives you a really good opportunity to slice and dice things into smaller chunks that answer a more specific question.
Absolutely. And we're going to keep publishing blog posts, and there'll be another podcast actually about that topic as well, which is coming up. So as a content cluster for us, this is important, but I think it showcases how the blog can work in it too. All right. Thank you for your time on this, Nicole. I do think the corporate blog is definitely evolving. It's important for us all to be aware of how it fits. It's important to recognize the bar has got a lot higher. And, if you want your blog to perform, you're going to have to put the effort in. And yes, it's going to be uncertain on the attribution, but it absolutely a central pillar of a lot of content marketing today and will fuel some great other derivative assets and other ways to drive conversions. Thank you all for your time today. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, we would love it if you could subscribe here on YouTube or on Spotify or Apple, wherever you get your podcast. Drop us a comment, and thank you for your time. And we will see you all again next week.